What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Summer Lunch Break. For today's episode, we're grubbing out with the GM of Liquid Force, official, if you know, you know, the man, the myth, the legend, Don Wallace. Don has been a part of the LF family for 25 years, getting his start in the industry as an intern, becoming the team manager for Liquid Force, and now working as their general manager. Don has seen the industry from all angles. During today's ep, we're diving into the good old days to hear some of Don's epic stories from Lake Powell trips to bro stock adventures. Don shares with us all things Liquid Force while we talk pro model boards, wake skating, and wake foiling. It's no secret that LF is one of the best, so why shouldn't they take wake foiling to all new levels? Why shouldn't they continue to push the limits of the wake skate game? Tune in to hear Don's answers to all our questions and so much more. Let's shout out, it's Don Wallace.
You know what I'm really scared about is if the wakeboarders get too close to shore, they may use some people on the shore as bonking items.
Summer lunch break.
What's happening? Thanks for having me. I got my official podcasting headphones on, so I'm ready to go.
Official. Yes, yeah. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today. Where are you joining us from?
So I'm in my office in Carlsbad, California right now.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. On the West Coast with me, most of the people I talk to are way over on the other side of the state. So cool that we're in the same time zone, which we're getting close to lunchtime. Not quite there yet, but I do have to start with the staple question of what you had for lunch or what you plan on having for lunch today.
Exactly. So I'm going to start off with a healthy snack.
We love that. Apple, yep.
Which I try to have one a day, but
apple a day. Yep.
I'm not that consistent. But it is a Friday, so a lot of times we'll go to Pizza Port, grab a beer at lunch. I don't know if I'm going to do that today. I might just do Chipotle or something.
Ooh, I mean, what's your Chipotle order?
I kind of been mixing it up. I used to always just get either a veggie bowl or I'd get like carnitas in a bowl, but nice. I've been getting tacos lately. They're pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Pretty fire. I like it. All right. Well, let's get started. We would like to kind of, before we get into the nitty gritty stuff, I do want to hear your backstory and how you got to where you are today. So let's take it back to the beginning. And I'd love if you could give me a roadmap kind of your life leading up to us talking right now. Just, wherever you want to start.
Perfect. Well,
just take us on a journey.
I'm a lot older than you, so it's going to take a while. No, yeah, where do I start? So I grew up in Northern California, this little town called Nevada City. It's whenever I'm describing it, I just say it's in between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
And it's where gold was first found in California. So it's
nice.
It's a pretty cool. It's a tiny little town. I mean, it's maybe 8,000 people the population, but in the summertime, it gets kind of busy with tourists coming in to look at like where the first gold was found and all that kind of stuff. But my parents moved up there. Literally, my parents are both from the LA area, and they moved up there like a month or two before I was born, just to kind of get out of the city. And I grew up there. Spent a lot of time in the outdoors. Riding bikes, skateboarding a little bit, things like that, and playing a lot of traditional sports, baseball, basketball, even though I was short, so that career didn't last very long. But
it's about your mindset. If you're following your mind, that's all that matters.
Exactly. I had a goal when I was a kid. I saw Spud Webb dunk when he was 5'7", so I was like, I'm gonna dunk when I'm 5'7". So
did you?
Well, I don't even know if I'm technically 5'7", so I still have really
so then it's open. Yeah, you've got time.
Yeah, I'm really close. But so then kind of fast forwarding how I got into wakeboarding and all that. My parent, we weren't a boating family at all. I think my uncle had like one of those jet boats with the big block in the back.
Right. And
we'd go out on that every once in a while and we'd go visit him, but really weren't into water skiing or anything like that. And I don't even, to be honest, I don't even know like how my parents decided this, but just one summer, my dad bought us an inboard outboard sea swirl and came home. Just I wake up in the morning, my dad's out front with his boat.
Boat in the driveway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
And it was, I think it was the summer after my sophomore year in high school. And yeah, so of course my brother and I are, holy crap, what, fired up. And it came with some wood water skis. So the first day we went out, we just learned, I'd never water skied before. We just like learned on these water skis. And then, then that just became kind of our family deal. Every once in a while we go out on the boat. And it wasn't really until my senior year in high school, my girlfriend at the time worked at the local shop.
Nice.
It wasn't like active. It wasn't a boat shop. It was just a sporting goods deal, but they sold wakeboards. And so she was really into wakeboarding, and so was one of the other guys that worked there. And so they would take me out on her boat, her family's boat.
Sick. Okay.
Yeah, so I got into wakeboarding through that, and then it just kind of quickly became like both my brother and I were big into snow ski racing.
Yeah.
And that would be like all we would do in the winter, and then the summer we'd go to Mount Hood for camps and things like that. But then when we were home in the summer, all we would do is mountain bike or wakeboard, and we sucked. I mean, my brother was better than me. Like he could do a 360. I was like so stoked when I landed a 180. But we just had an inboard outboard tiny little wake, but just had a blast, and that was like all we would do every summer. And just kind of kept doing that, and went graduated high school. I went to, as you know, the best university in Oregon, the University of Oregon.
I should just end the call now. It's over. It's over.
But yeah, so I went to University of Oregon, and when I was up there, I wakeboarded a little bit, but not as much as I wanted to. But I did have a friend who his family had an actual wakeboard. I mean, I guess at the time it was probably just a water ski boat, but it was a inboard boat. It was the first time I'd been on a boat like that, and it was just so fun, and kind of rekindled my wakeboarding fire. And I was doing sports marketing at Oregon, and I at the time, as I started getting closer to graduation, I didn't know if I wanted to work at Nike or if I wanted to work for K2 Skis or come home and work for my dad at his body shop, like whatever, just things like that. And I kind of luckily stumbled upon an internship at Surfing Magazine down here.
Yes. Okay.
And with the year between my junior and senior year in college, got this job at Surfing Magazine. And I say job, I wasn't getting paid. It was just an internship, but was there a couple days a week doing, hanging banners at surf events. And I didn't surf. I wasn't a surfer. I just.
Was it doing that then? Was it kind of like, was it intimidating almost? Because it was like,
fully,
like scary. That's scary.
Totally. Like the only reason I got the job is because the marketing director at the time, Michael Marks, he was super into like track and field and that. And I think his family, he had some connection to Steve Prefontaine, like Prefontaine was related to him to some extent.
Okay.
So he really loved University of Oregon and Nike and all that. And so, that was kind of our connection.
Yeah.
And I wanted to surf, like any kid that grows up on the West Coast, like even if you don't really know how to surf, you try it every once in a while.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it was super intimidating to show up at Surfing Magazine and seeing, all these like Sonny Garcia coming in to like get magazines so he could take out all the pictures of him and send his photo and send them to sponsors. And, and I'm fanning out on these people, and then they're like, oh, we should go, at your lunch break, let's go surf. And I'd be like, yeah, cool.
Sure.
I don't really know how to, but
like, my ankle hurts.
Yeah. But what was really cool, so at one of the, I think it was the US Open in Huntington Beach, we're at the Surfing Magazine's hosting a party, I'm hanging banners, and I hear this like crazy laugh in the background, and I'm like, whoa, what is this person? And I
Yeah.
turn around and it's Tony Finn. And
Oh, no way.
I knew who Tony was because I had like that summer before had obsessed
Mm-hmm.
over, I think it was High Wake Drifters or Wake the Beast, one of the really old wake
Yeah.
tech movies. And so I loved, I was like stoked on Byerly and Gator and those guys, and
Yeah.
Tony
Yeah.
had been in the video. And so I walked up nervously and introduced myself to him, and told, he was like, oh, who are you? What do you do? And like, he knew my boss from surfing. and
Okay.
and I was like, yeah, like I'm at surfing, but I love wakeboarding. Like I suck at it, but I love it. I
Mm-hmm.
eventually it'd be cool to work for somebody like you. And so he invited me to come down a couple days a week, to intern too. So I would like intern
Wow.
2 days of surfing, then 2 days at Liquid Force. And yeah,
Wow.
it was a trip. And then it just kind of went from there. I mean, I went back to school, and when I was at school, the team manager for Liquid Force quit. And I've never interviewed for a position at Liquid Force. Tony just called me and said, hey, I didn't even know what a team manager was,
It's all about who you know, right?
Totally. And so I get this call, and I've told this story before, and I think it's funny because Tony was just like wanted me to start then. And I think it was in January. So I still had, 5 more months of college to finish. And I told him, I really want this job, but I need to get my degree.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's cool. You don't need a degree for
Whatever.
the action sports. It's fine. Like I don't have a degree. This is Tony talking. And I was like, yeah, my parents would be super pissed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he literally was like, well, let me call your parents. I'll tell them what's up. And and it wasn't like Tony was going to pay me 50 grand or something. I was going to make like 18 grand. So it's not like this crazy lucrative deal. So I just tell him like, hey, thanks, but I got to wait. And so he was like, okay, well, we'll probably find somebody else. Well, they didn't. And so fast forward to I'm graduating, and he is still needing a team manager. And
Yeah.
that's how it went. And now I've been here 25 years. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is crazy. What a cool story. And I love that it's like it's almost like that's where you were meant to be, and the world just kind of shifted you into that. So that's really rad. I'm gonna backtrack us a little bit. Thank you for breaking that down. So now I've got some questions for you. You kind of mentioned as a kid you were mountain biking and skateboarding, and I know you did a lot of skiing. And I know you've been asked this before, but I definitely want to just touch on it. What kind of, if you love skiing and you love being in snow sports, going into the water sports industry, give me one reason that you decided that was what you wanted to do over like the snow industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think if I had my choice at the time, I probably would have gone into the ski industry, preferably. But I didn't have the, even though like I was around reps and things like that, it just seemed like I connected more with the wake reps at the time. I remember, it's funny because he obviously wouldn't have remembered this, but Joe Sassenrath from Hyperlight, it was, HO at the time, would come into the local shop, and he'd always, if he was there, like my brother and I would just be nerding out on, Hyperlight stuff with him. And I just remember thinking that was really cool. So I always kind of had in the back of my mind that the water sports reps were cool.
Pretty rad.
But so I think the one reason I ended up in wake is literally just because I met Tony Finn, and that kind of randomly, lucky being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to expand on that, like now looking back, it's funny. So my brother is in the ski industry. He worked at K2 for a long time. He worked at POC. Now he works at Evo on the business development side of it. Yeah. It's another Northwest retailer, but but him being in the snow side of things more he's had some amazing experiences. He's gotten to go to Europe and ski and do things like that. But it does seem like certain years, like when he was working at K2, he was so busy in the winter that he didn't get to spend as much time in the
Couldn't
snow.
go.
Whereas for me, it was almost the opposite. Like
Yeah.
I mean, now winters aren't quite as much of a down season because the business is so much bigger. But at the time, I'd be pretty slow in the winter, so I could spend a ton
Yeah.
of time, in the mountains,
Yeah.
and it wasn't work, so I enjoyed it a little more. Whereas like
Mhm.
wake, I love it, but there are days where all I want to do is just get away and go wakeboard. But
Mhm.
then you're on the boat and I'm with Jimmy Redmond or something, and we're talking about product, and it becomes a work thing, and
Yeah.
which is, that's part of what makes this job so rad.
Mhm.
But it's like you kind of sometimes can't get away from it, and so I don't know, when I go to the mountains, whether it's skiing or I snowboard a little
That's
bit.
great. Yeah.
To me, that's totally vacation. I'm not thinking
It's
about work.
absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I noticed like we'll go out on the boat and we go out like as a crew, off work, grab the boat, go to the river. And so it's like my work days are, longer because I'm with everybody and it doesn't feel like work, but I do, we have a saying, a couple of us, it's like always end the day with active because we always have to bring the boat back and drop it off on the lot when we're done. And it's like every time I come in, drop the truck keys off or whatever we're doing, I'm like, I spend way too much time here. I am here all the time, but
yeah, I mean, and it's obviously cool. Like you obviously
yeah,
love being there. I know Dan and everybody like loves being
yeah,
part of active, and that's how I am here too. Like sometimes I trip out when I'm like my friends from out of town come here. My parents were just here this weekend, and we're walking around the office, and I'm like, man, rewind, 27 years ago or 25 years ago, like thinking about, I have just like, I could take any board I want, go ride and all this stuff. And it's really cool. But yeah, there are days where I'm like, I've been here 10 hours. I don't want to,
yeah, yeah. I don't want
I
to go
love
back home.
everybody I work with, but
I would like to
sorry.
go home.
Yeah, I don't want to go chill with you guys. I'd rather just go surf for an hour or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to touch, we're kind of on, I want to touch more on this, but I do want to step back really quick because, you've mentioned a few people that have been influential, but is there anyone very specifically, besides maybe someone you've already mentioned, that was just growing up very influential to you to where you were like, helped kind of, you felt like maybe they guided you to get where you are?
Yeah, I mean, kind of a lot, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, it's not cliche, but like if you grew up in a good family, it kind of like my parents were
Yeah.
awesome in the sense that, well, if my dad had never bought us that boat,
Right.
I 100%, well, I don't know, maybe in college I would have connected with somebody with the boat, but
Mhm.
probably not. I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't have been in this industry. And at a pretty like, it wasn't like he bought the boat and then we were required to go out with him and my mom. Like my brother and I quickly were just like taking
We're
it
taking
whenever we
it.
wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was pretty awesome. And then nobody on this podcast is going to know this person, but my really good friend Aaron Atkins, growing up, he like runs the North Star like ski race department now. Like
Okay.
he's done some pretty good things in the ski industry, and he was kind of the first person I met at, like I was so baseball, basketball, football, that kind of stuff, and I met him on the bus, and he was on the ski team, and I did,
Yeah.
I was a skier like just for fun on the weekends with family, but had never taken it seriously. And he was, oh, you should come try out for the team. And I quickly learned how
Yeah.
bad I sucked at that sport at the beginning too, until I started hanging out with him more. But he and his dad kind of took me under their wing and got me. They were the ones that would talk to my parents and say, "Yeah,
Yeah.
he has some talent. You should send him to Mount Hood for camps." And
Okay.
through that, I kind of got into more of the, action sports
Yeah.
side of things, even though a lot of people don't consider ski racing action sports, but it's the same type
Yeah.
of sport. And it got me kind of into that side of my brain. I still to this day, I mean, I love regular sports, but my brain kind of went more towards the skiing, snowboarding, surfing, skateboarding, mountain, that side.
Yeah.
Through
Oh,
my
absolutely.
buddy Aaron. So
Nice.
And I don't
That's
know if he
awesome.
even knows that. Like I've never told him that. So, but it really like kind of changed where I went with
You
things,
did.
which is cool.
Way rad. Well, hopefully he gets to hear it
Yeah, I'll make sure you
by
have another
listening.
follower.
Yeah. 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 All right. Well, I want to touch a little bit. We've kind of covered a lot of bases, but I want to touch a bit on the industry, the wake industry. So, you've made this decision of it's kind of like you had your off season to go and see and do what you were really passionate about, but you also loved, working and that sort of thing. Is there something that about the wake industry, like very specifically, that stood out to you to where you like it solidified that it was a good place for you to be?
Oh yeah, 100%. It was the athletes, and what I would say about that is the way they kind of welcomed me with open
Yeah.
arms. Like I keep saying, I loved wakeboarding. We did it all the time, but we weren't good. Like, I mean, we
Yeah.
were never,
Same.
I never had intentions of being a pro wakeboarder because didn't, I just
Right.
didn't because I wasn't good enough. And I remember, when I got hired as team manager, I'm Gators team manager, Sarah Klein's team manager, Drew McGuckins, Greg Nekrasen, Ryan Steve, like all these people that I watched in videos,
Yeah.
I'm suddenly their boss.
You're
And
like, so what do we do?
totally. And it was, at the time, it wasn't like I was doing their contracts. Tony was still doing their contracts.
Yeah.
And I was mainly just sending them product and
Mhm.
helping them get their plane flights to events and things. But I started traveling with them, and it was never, I mean, I shouldn't say this. There was definitely hazing. Greg and Ryan definitely hazed the crap out of me at
As
times.
should be always.
Totally. Like but like in a loving manner, I guess I'd say.
Right. Yeah.
And then I would when I started going to Orlando at the beginning, I would stay at Greg's house, and he introduced me to Johnny King and to Byerly and to all these people that, I just remember Scott Byerly, for instance, like being super cool to me from day one.
Yeah.
And I was tripping because it was like, at the time, he was like the gold standard for a wakeboarder, for everything I liked out of a wakeboarder. He was,
Right.
It was very far away from the water skiing side of wakeboarding. It was, he was an action sports guy, and he just was super cool to me, and everybody was. And it was like, I mean, I would like to say, because hopefully I'm a likable person too, but I just felt like they were very open and welcoming. And I don't know that other industries, I hadn't experienced that personally with other sports and years later, my brother has told me, because he's gone to some boat shows to hang out and things, and he's said that he's noticed, and he's like, maybe it's because I'm your brother, and so they're all being cool to me. He's like, but I see him being cool. Well, like the Evening with the Stars thing. I mean, the athletes are genuinely intermingling with the consumers and having a good time.
Yeah.
Remembering consumers because they've been there year after year. And I don't think it's like that as much in like the ski and snowboard industry or some of the others. And what do I know? I'm not in those industries, but I got that right away at the beginning, and I was like, that's super cool. And the other brands too. I mean, for the most part, like the people at the other companies, I would always get the like, oh, you're working with Tony and Jimmy. Like those guys are interesting, but they would always be super cool to me. And I thought that was kind of fun.
I think it's rad. Yeah, like you're kind of saying, we do have it's a smaller industry. Smaller, I say that very lightly, but it feels like a community, and people are very like, from the day one you meet them. I mean, when I'm talking to people that I've never met before and we have these conversations, it's like, I feel like we're like, like I know them already, and it's cool. And
Totally.
everyone's so welcoming and so nice, and just, I love it. So I definitely see where you're coming from, saying like it stood out and it's a good reason to stick around for 25 years.
And I think it's still that same way. I mean, it's like anything. There's, I can't say I've enjoyed being around every single person that's in this industry. There's definitely some people that have rubbed me the wrong way, and maybe I've done the same to some people. But I think in general, everybody is super cool. And, you know, like I keep talking about Evening with the Stars, but when I go to that event, I'm not just in my corner hanging out with Liquid Force and doing our thing.
Right.
We're talking to the athletes from all the brands. I'm talking to all the reps that are up there for the different brands. And it's, you know, it's always cool. I think that's fun because we're competition, but at the same time, we're all doing the same thing.
We all like wakeboarding, so
totally.
At least we can agree on that, right?
Totally.
I want to touch on, you know, we talked about all these great people. Is, you know, I guess I've kind of asked this before, but where you are right now, like in the industry, someone that you're close with that you feel like you couldn't do your job without?
Oh, that's impossible to say one person.
The first person, I need just one. And I understand there's lots, but maybe someone that's done something that stood out, you know, recently that you're like, yeah, I definitely am glad you're in my corner.
Oh my God. Well, I feel like I just need to say Aaron Grace because he's listening through the wall right now. But
he's like sitting there with a cup.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think everybody here knows like where I stand with, you know, how important like Aaron, Joe, our art director, Pete in design, Wade in design. I mean, it's like everybody.
Yes.
But I think like if you were like, oh, who's your right hand person at the company? Probably Colin O'Malley.
Okay.
If people don't know, he's our sales manager, and
he
started out in customer service and has, you know, kind of like as I've grown, he's grown with the company too, and now he's our US sales manager, and he's awesome. I mean, he and I are very different in our like. I think I'm a little more comfortable going to events and being in that scene.
Yeah.
He's a little more like he wants to hang at his desk and get the stuff done. But he's so good with our reps and so good with our customers and so, you know, if I have to say one, like he's
shout out Colin.
And he's, I mean, everybody, Aaron's been with us for almost as long as I've been here too. So it's rad how many people have been here for a long time. So we all kind of have each other's backs, and we all kind of have done a lot of the same type of, you know, like with Aaron, he and I have both been team manager. We've both been marketing. So it's like we see, like, I know what he's going through in certain situations.
You can connect really easily that way. Absolutely.
And that's how with Colin in the sales manager role, like I know what but he's way better at it than I used to be. And I was never in customer service. So that part of it, I wasn't as good. So it's been cool having him in that role to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to ask too, you know, you guys have all been doing this together for quite some time now and seen all different sides of everything. What, if you were going to give advice to somebody, you know, whether it be your younger self or just somebody younger that's trying to make their way into this industry, what advice would you give them, you know, on how to do that and the best way to navigate it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've actually been asked this question before, and I feel like every time I give a different answer because because there's not really like one thing to say.
Right.
But so like in my position, you know, it's like I started not getting paid. Then when I was getting paid, I was barely making anything. And, you know, I'm obviously doing way better now than I was then, but it's still the wakeboard industry. So it's not like I'm making what I would be making if I was at Nike in this position.
Right.
And I think, but I think it doesn't matter because it's like I guess what I would say is I know a lot of friends that straight out of college felt like they had to year 1 and 2 out of college have this like high paying job to justify college. And if they didn't get in with a big company right away, they were never going to make a bunch of money when they're older. And I think I don't like everybody's financial situation is different. So maybe some people have to because they have to pay off their college debts right away and all that. But to me, I think I've seen a lot of people here that have started out here because they're passionate about it and not because they were going to make a ton of money. And then eventually it works out. And eventually you get to a position where you're doing well. And, you know, and I think I think longevity has something to do with that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a real answer, but it's like,
no, I definitely,
I don't think chasing money is the answer. I
right.
think chasing passion and chasing something you're into, and then eventually success comes with that. I think that's
Yeah,
the biggest.
absolutely. Well, and I totally relate to that because like I graduated in 2020 and it was like, okay, well, first of all, the world is shut down. Second of all, I have a public health degree and I was working here, but I was like, well, those don't really go together, but I don't really care because I like going to work every day. And I feel
Yeah,
like not everybody can say that. And yeah, like there's the hard days that everybody has a hard day at work, you know, and
totally.
working with customers can be challenging at times, but it is chasing passion, doing something that like you want to be doing every day, not just because it's going to get you a paycheck. And I was
Totally.
very, very nervous. I'm talking about myself now, but I was so nervous that like my parents were going to be like, hey, remember that degree you just spent 3 years getting? Like, what are you gonna, is that just
Yeah,
gonna, you know, collect dust in the corner or what? But they've been so supportive because they know I'm happy. And I'm like,
totally.
I'm doing what I want to be doing. You know, I'm not doing it because I have to. I'm doing it because I want to.
Yeah,
So,
and I mean, you're still young too, so it's like if this doesn't work out the way you want, you can always go do something else. And
right.
I always kind of thought the same thing. I was like, hey, this is rad. I've never lived in Southern California. It'd be cool to live in a beach
Yeah.
town, figure it out. And like, now here I am all these years later. And I think the other thing too is I mean, it's easier now because I'm in more of a management position and I can kind of guide people, but
yeah.
I used to stress about the dumbest things. Like, you know, a, I'm trying to think of an example, but like, a board getting to a team or a board breaking or something. And I would freak out on our designers, like, how our boards are
Why?
breaking, what's
Yeah.
wrong?
Yeah.
And like, and now I look back, I'm like, it wasn't an issue, and they're working their best to make these things better.
Right.
And if like some angry customer is calling me because something went wrong with their order, like you can always turn them around to a happy customer by just being nice
Yeah.
to them and supporting them and
Mm-hmm.
realizing we're not saving the world here. We're just
Yeah.
selling toys. So
I know.
there's like days where we'll be in these like kind of heated debates about something internally, and I have to step back and I'm like, why are you getting so worked up about this? Like, this isn't that big of a deal. And not to make it sound like we don't take our jobs and our business seriously.
Right. No, I totally know what you're saying. Yes.
But
Yeah.
it's not like we're the president of the United States and we're running like we're selling toys. Like, that's the bottom line. So
yeah, totally. And that kind of leads into another question I was going to have because I feel like a lot of the times, you know, I'll have friends or people I don't see as often. They'll be like, your job is so fun. Like, what do you just get paid to be on the boat? And I'm like, no, I'm working all day so that I can go on the boat after work. And,
totally.
you know, and yes, some work days I'm on a boat, which is so sick and I'm always hyped about. But I think a lot of people maybe forget that like it's a business.
Yeah.
We're in the business industry. So I guess, you know, if someone were to like kind of talk to you that way and maybe make it seem like, I guess, how would you explain to someone that it is a business industry? You know, like what?
I'd show them the
Not a
spreadsheet.
not yeah.
I'd show them the spreadsheet that I'm working on today and be like, does this look like I'm out on the boat? No.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
you can do spreadsheets in your board shorts, but it's still a spreadsheet. Yeah.
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 No, I mean, I think there's a ton of, so yes, this job is way cooler than most
Yeah.
jobs. Like I can just wear a t-shirt to work. I can, eat lunch at my desk and things like that. And we have a boat in our little warehouse here that whenever I want, we could take it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's all that stuff. And, and shoot, I was just in Germany and London for work, so it's like I get to go to killer places and do fun things like that. But yeah, it's at the same time, I mean, everybody's role here we take seriously. And like mine, especially now, you know, managing, being the general manager, it's like I have to oversee a lot of things, including people's livelihood, right? Like
Yeah.
I take that very seriously because I'm looking at, you know, decisions that I'm making that could affect everybody here's salaries or bonuses or whatever. And so I think, you know, I don't know. I think because I'm really connected to everybody that works here. So it
Yeah.
almost makes me feel like I have to work harder because I want to kind of keep the team
Yeah.
motivated.
Take care of everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I do spend a ton of time staring at spreadsheets, problem solving, you know, doing all this kind of stuff that anybody would do at any job.
At
And
any
so,
job. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, you know, every job's got its advantages and disadvantages. And I think, you know, this job is just like any other job. We just happen to be selling fun. So it's a little more laid back and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but it's not like I go wakeboard 4 hours a day and then I sit here
and
for,
they're
I
like
mean,
somebody's cutting you a check afterwards. Yeah, that's not
and even when we travel, you know, it's like going to Germany's rad because before the meeting we go on the unit standing wave pool, and then afterwards we go ride at the cable. But we're sitting in a conference room for 8 hours doing product presentations and stuff like that in the middle, and then you get done riding, and then you go have dinner and drinks with everybody, and the next thing you know, it's 1 a.m, and then you're getting up early the next. I mean, so there's
go to work again.
Even the fun stuff's exhausting. So
yes, I say that too. Like when we go do, you know, like when we went to dealer days, it was like, okay, you know, you can stay up till 2 a.m, but there's school in the morning and you have to come learn about everything. And it's like, that's still, you know, even if I was hungover, like I want to be learning about it. So it's like, you gotta, there's a very good balance of lots of fun, but then also like business time, business talk, you know, that sort of thing.
My first like I don't know what to call this, but like when I first realized like, oh, this is what this job is like, is literally my first week at Liquid Force. We used to do the SIA trade show because we were still trying to find a bunch of dealers. So we went to the snowboard show in Vegas, and I spent 6 days in Vegas. And I remember just being like, because, you know, you're partying at night and then you're in the booth all day. And I remember at the end of that, almost just being like, I don't know if I'm cut for this industry. It was so fun, but so tiring. And luckily I didn't change my mind after that because it's been great. But I mean, there's just a lot of hard work that goes into everything.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like those big events those are things that, you know, like boat shows, I get so excited for them. And then when I'm in the midst of it, I'm like, I just want to go to bed. I'm so tired. This is such long days. But then it's like, you got to go out afterwards. Why would you not want to go, you know, hang out with everybody? And it's exhausting, but it's like, you got to do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's so fun. Like you got to do it. You got to work hard to play hard.
And it's funny because the boat shows are a lot more work for you guys than it is for somebody like me that just flies in for a couple days. But it's like the same with trade shows. Like then we have the setup and tear down and you guys just show up. And so I think it's good to like have been able to do one or the other because you realize all the hard work that goes into the other side of it.
Yeah, it is. And it's not just the week of, you know, it's the week 2 weeks before and it's the week after getting everything organized again. And it takes a whole team to make it happen, but
I just went this week to the AllStar, like the Major League Baseball AllStar Game. It was at Dodger Stadium, and I was sitting there watching just everything that's going on, and I'm like, so I guarantee. Well, like I have a friend that works for the Dodgers, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's so cool! Your job must be awesome." And it's the same thing. He's like, "Yeah, it's awesome, but it's still a job." And I was thinking about every single person that went into putting on the AllStar event and how much work, and they probably have their friends at home. Oh, that's so cool. You're working at the AllStar Game. And
they're like sweating and tired and nauseous. And you're like, it's really fun.
Yeah. So I think working in an industry like this, it makes you like appreciate. It's just like, if you've never worked at a restaurant, you don't understand how gnarly it is to work in food service. I think it's the same thing with this industry. You realize how hard events are, how rewarding they are, but how hard they are. So when you see other events going smoothly, it's like, man, that's a lot of work, but that good on them for doing it.
Yeah, sometimes it can be, it can be like overwhelming being in charge of everybody else's fun and making sure I always joke here, I'm like, we are in charge of everybody's fun, but when the fun stops, it gets a little scary. Like that's always like, you gotta, it's like all hands on deck, fix it, like make the fun happen again. And it's, takes a village to make it happen. But okay, we want to touch, we'll take a step back and we're going to talk about you being the team manager of Liquid Force. So I would kind of, you've touched on it here and there, but I'd like to know kind of what is like the job description. So what are you in charge of when you're a team manager for LF?
Yeah. So when I was team manager, it's way different than it is now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about what you did and then maybe how it's changed over time.
Yeah. So first off, when I was team manager, we were so much more of just like a United States based team.
Okay.
I guess we had Shannon Best from Australia. We had we had some like Australians, and we probably had somebody from Canada that I'm not thinking of right now. I mean, we've had tons from Canada, but trying to think at the very beginning. But the job was so focused on, honestly, Orlando at the time, and so that's one of the biggest differences why my job was so much easier, because I was just dealing with people essentially on my time zone and that spoke my language and all that. But my job really was to make our athletes available for dealer demos. And, when we were doing Trip Across America, I was scheduling who was going to be on the RV at what times, booking their flights, which we don't really do anymore. The athletes want to do that because they want to get their miles on their Delta card or whatever.
Yeah, smart.
But back then I would book all their flights. I would, make sure they had product to test if we were doing new stuff, but then also, just product to have throughout the season. So I'd enter the orders, that kind of stuff. Organizing the photo shoots, we would do obviously the once or twice a year, catalog type shoots, that kind of stuff. And I don't know. I mean, we always joke that it was like a babysitting role because then I'd travel to all the pro tour events with the athletes, and usually I would get the minivan and like cruise
everybody around. Yeah.
And try not to wake up hungover and have them miss their starts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things like that. But yeah, it was mainly just that, like really just doing anything to kind of keep them on the right path to promoting our product and driving up to a new dealer and being like, okay, this is the owner, this is the manager, these like, and I should be obvious, but make sure you're cool to them.
Be nice.
Yeah. So, and then I was really involved in, when I'd be in the office and not working on team stuff, I would be involved in, product decisions, like helping the crew decide if a graphic was going to work or not. Working with Jimmy Redmond at the time at the beginning was essentially doing our ad creative too. So I'd work with him on picking the photos and, that kind of stuff. So, So,
what's when you were the team manager, what is one of the craziest memories that you have that you're like, that was insane?
Well, yeah. So a ton. This one was like super innocent, but it was like really kind of funny too. So, Sean Watson. So it was the Detroit Pro Tour stop. I don't have a clue what year this was, but I think it was one of the first years that Sean was actually riding for Liquid Force and was a pro. And he had qualified on Saturday. He had qualified first for the finals going in Sunday. So he was all stoked, it's like, I don't even know if he had ever made the finals before or not. And he and I were sharing a room in a rental car, and the Saturday night, the Pro Tour had a big party. So we go out, typical Pro Tour night, we're out super late, get back to the room. and wake up in the morning and we had overslept. Like our alarm either didn't go off or it went off and we just ignored it. And
it went off till it got tired and turned off. Yeah.
yeah. And so let's say the finals were at 11 or 10, whatever time it was. We literally woke up like 30 minutes before the finals were supposed to be going. And our hotel was about 40 minutes away from the site. So Watson's freaked out. I'm freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. Like if I don't get into the event, he misses a start. And so, you know, we're just hauling ass in this minivan trying to get there. He's calling all the athletes to be like, I need some help. He finally gets a hold of Parks. And I think Parks was qualified second or third. So he was going to be going right before Sean. And Parks is like, dude, don't worry. I got you. And I guess what he kept doing is it was his turn to go and he's throwing his rope out and he kept purposely putting knots in his rope so that he'd have to pull it back and then try to untangle it and then he'd tangle it, throw it. And like literally Parks stalled for like 5 minutes for us. And we come, like I'm driving the van down the like grassy. We're like,
I can see you guys just
trying to get like fans are having to move out of the way. And like Watson jumps out, like literally gets his gear on. Like I think he's changing his board shorts in the van as we're going. Gets his gear, gets to the dock right as it's like his time is about to expire.
Oh my God.
They let him go. He wins the contest. And I remember that. So then that night was the biggest celebration ever. But it was like such a awesome, like, And Sean and I were already good friends at that point, but that was like a forever bonding.
That like solidified. Totally.
Totally.
There's nothing like pure havoc to bring you and somebody else together to where you're like, oh, this friendship will work. I think it's nice. Wow. Shout out to Parks. That's pretty rad. That's genius, honestly. Like, you know, I would think like for me, I'd be like, wait, everybody wait, you know, but you can't do that. So how smart of him to do that.
And think about how many other competitors would have been like, screw that. Like I got here on time. Like it was just really, I mean, Parks at that point didn't have to prove anything. Everybody knew he was the best, but I thought it was super cool. And
that's really rad.
I mean, there's been other crazy times of driving the RV with Thomas Durrell and Miles Vickers and Jim Leatherman, and they're shooting fireworks inside the RV while I'm driving, like things like that. But yeah, as far as a PG story, that one with Watson,
that one will work on here. Yeah. Wow, that sounds crazy. That just is insane. All right, we'll move into I just asked how that job worked, and then we went on that little adventure, and now I'm like, wow, that sounds so fun. Now I kind of want to go shoot a firework off for some reason, but we'll get back on track here. You know, talking about riders and whether they're shooting fireworks in the back of an RV or not. How does Liquid Force choose their riders? How do they deem someone fit to join the team? You know, what does it take to become part of the LF family?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is related. I don't know, it's weird. There's just like a style that we kind of have always gone for. I mean, like back at the beginning, there was definitely the ski board style wakeboarders. You know, I won't name names, but they're great people, but they just they were very like edging super hard into the wake and real quick tricks, whereas we were really more into the Sean Watson style of rider, or you know, even though he didn't ride for us, Byerly, you know, that just real stylish, more skateboard, snowboard style. And I think if you just look at like our entire history, it's like whether it was, we've always just had riders like that. You know, whether it was Melissa Marquette or Colin Harrington, or, you know, it might not have been like the gnarliest contest riders, but they were just really smooth and stylish and kind of influential. You know, Shane, same thing. And I think that was like the start. And that wasn't me. I mean, at the beginning, that was Tony and Jimmy had that vision. And then I fell in line with that because that's how I liked, that was a part of the sport I liked watching too. And we've just kind of always gone down that route. So it's like, a unique style is a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think somebody like Rome, like who's probably my favorite rider we've ever had. Just I love
Yeah.
the way he does his thing, and it's weird. Like when people ask about style, it's not like there's different styles that everybody likes,
Right.
but there's just something about the way somebody like that rides that I've always thought was really cool. It looks kind of effortless and like smooth, and so that's a big part of it. Now too, like in this newer generation where social media is a big part of it, and athletes' personalities are a big part of it. We look for somebody that's going to, you know, we don't always need the perfect clean cut person. Like we have a bunch of idiots on our team, but even when they're idiots, they're still super cool people and super nice and like understand that we can't do this without the fans and the, you know, the customers that are buying products. So just somebody that's a good person is a big part of it too. I think we've had this reputation over the years of like kind of being like the party team, and we're not that serious, but like, or we're just out there doing whatever. But like, you know, you have somebody like Gunther and somebody like Megan that are such great ambassadors for us. Like they rip out on the water, but they're also just really nice people too, and they care about. And Harley, I mean, you go down the list of all our athletes, and so I think that's a big. I mean, they've gotten older, so that's part of it. They've gotten more mature, but even like the younger riders that we have, you know, like Claudia over in Italy, she's so nice, and her dad is so nice, and so it's like first glance you might see she's got this nose ring and tattoos, and she's just kind of
looks like a badass,
yeah. But then you get to meet her, and you're like, oh, she's just super nice,
sweetest
like,
thing ever,
can't believe she's in the position she's in, and you know, I think that's a big part of what we look for too. And a lot of times we, you know, be like Aaron Grace or Tom Boucher, pick them because they like the way they ride and they've met them in an event. But a lot of times it's a dealer telling us, hey, we've got this local kid you should check out, or you know, and he loves liquid force. That's another thing too. It's rare that we'll, I don't want to say steal because that's not the right word, but it's rare that we'll take a rider that if the rider has grown up loving slingshot or loving whatever, like it's super rare that we'll
try and
end up having that person ride for us. Usually it's somebody who, you know, maybe they bounced around because whatever they just rode whatever their parents bought them, but like it usually ends up being somebody who is like really stoked about liquid force too, which is cool because that, you know, like I don't want them just riding for us because we pay them the most. I want them riding for us also because they believe in the brand.
Their mindset's a big deal too. Absolutely. So when you're, you know, putting your teams together and you're deciding on that local guy, you know, and you're bringing these people together from all over the place, how do you kind of control the sense of camaraderie and keep, you know, just keep the vibes up? Is that challenging, or does it happen pretty easily for you guys?
It's way harder than it used to be, just because you mentioned the international part. So
broader,
so it's like now, you know, it used to be all our riders were in Florida, so how we
get together, right?
I'd fly to Florida, we'd get in an RV, we'd drive around the country, and you'd have a blast. You'd fight every once in a while, Now it's, I mean, there's a lot of our team riders that haven't met each other before, you know, because it's not just wakeboarders, it's boat riders that maybe never go to a cable contest, or wake surfers, you know, like Tommy Shashin he's met most of our boat riders because he'll be at a boat shoot, you know, with them, but he hasn't necessarily met Daniel Grant or, you know, somebody like that. So it is kind of tough, but I think and it's been tough the last couple of years because there's been less opportunity for everybody to get together. But Tom and Aaron have organized these, like, I think it's quarterly. I don't know if we've literally done it every quarter, but we'll do Zoom or team meetings where everybody gets together, and It's usually like, because we want to update them on some things we're doing in marketing and update them on product. And it's kind of funny because there'll be some team rider on his boat partying and he doesn't ever mute.
It's
So
like,
we have to
oh,
keep muting him.
yeah. You're like,
And then like Luca and Sam look like they're just on a bender sitting on a couch together or something. Yeah. So it's kind of funny, but it's been kind of a cool way for people, well, for me personally, to meet some of the younger riders that,
right.
you know, I don't know, but like, and even Aaron, I mean, he doesn't go to as many events as he used to, same as me. And so Tom and Nico and some of those riders or, you know, team managers are more in charge of who we're getting, but there's that. I mean, but there's still time. Like this year, for the 2023 product, all the park stuff, we did a trip in Italy.
Very cool.
Yeah, where Aaron Grace and Adam, who runs our sales and marketing in Europe, he and all the athletes went, you know, on this thing, and so that was kind of cool. Like it's again not the entire team, but it's the park segment or whatever gets
get together and go do that kind of as a group, which is cool. Yeah, that's rad.
Because you want, I mean, you want everybody to kind of be like-minded in their what direction we're going, and and it's I mean, it's like, I wish we had the budget that Red Bull seems to have, where they can invite 100 athletes to a thing and spend 5 days together. Like, we don't really do that, but yeah, we try to. We keep talking about doing a reunion at Lake Powell and just getting everybody on houseboats, but
that would be insane.
We just need to do it.
Yeah, that would be rad. I can't imagine someone not making time to go do that.
Totally. I mean, they all remember, or they've all grown up seeing, you know, the footage from Relentless or just some of our old catalogs where we're at Lake Powell, so they know how rad it is. But yeah, it's also pretty expensive. So
it is. Yes, it is, for sure. I kind of want to touch too, you know, as we're talking about these athletes and them, you know, how you choose them and how you bring them into the team. I want to ask, as far as pro model boards go, I feel like I don't know, and maybe it's just me, maybe I don't get it, but I feel like some riders, sometimes I see they sign with the team and then they've got one the next year. And then others, I'm like, well, they don't have one yet. And so I guess I kind of want a better understanding of how getting your own pro model, how does that happen for an athlete with Liquid Force?
Yeah. I mean, there's not like a set of rules, like, okay.
Like boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
Because I've heard in the past, some brands have been like, they have to have won contests, or they have to
do this, and
and it's like they qualify, and then okay, cool.
Right.
For us, it's more of like a gut feeling of
when you know.
Yeah, like I mean, there's some that are obvious. Like, obviously Megan Ethel should have. Well, I don't know if obviously any athlete should have a pro model necessarily, but she's been at the top of her game. She's so influential. She does so much for the sport. So it's like, that's an obvious one.
Right.
And then there's, you know, somebody like Daniel Grant, Harley Clifford, where it's like they're at the top of their game, and so they should. But then there's others that like so on our women's park team, you know, Anna is established, has won a lot of events, is such a rad person, and so she's had her board for next year. And this isn't a secret because this will be out by the time, but Claudia Panini is getting a pro model next year.
Awesome. Hell yeah.
And it's rad because she's been, not the contest matter, but it's like she's kind of justifying.
She's just been, she works hard.
Yeah. And there's plenty of other girls that we have in the international scene that are rippers, and maybe they think they should have a pro model, or maybe somebody else thinks they should. And I think it's just not quite there yet. And, you know, we get a lot of like input from our distributors. So our distributors in Germany that are super into the sport, you know, that own Langenfeld cable parks and all that, they, you know, they're running Langenfeld Open and big events, and they're constantly like, okay, this girl or this guy has
That
it.
person.
Like,
Yep.
so it's kind of like just a gut feel, you know, it's obviously marketing plays into it too. Like if there's somebody
Totally.
that we've had athletes in the past that absolutely rip, but they're kind of assholes, and you didn't really feel like they would
Why? Yeah. You know.
serve the brand well. And, you know, and a lot of them at that point left our brand because it wasn't, you know, they really wanted a pro model. And then we've had other athletes that have been with us forever, and probably if we didn't already have a pro model for Raf or for Harley or for Daniel, maybe they would get a pro model, and they probably could get a pro model in another brand, but they're okay with it, you know, and and maybe eventually they'll get one. But I think, and I don't want to name any of those names because I don't want to bum them out if they know that's what I'm thinking. But there's definitely some people that I think, you know, like probably could leave Liquid Force, get a pro model with another brand, but you know, they're just stoked on brand, and we're supporting them enough, you know, too.
Exactly. Yeah. That doesn't solidify you as an athlete by any means. It's just, it's an extra perk, you know?
Yeah. And pro models are an interesting thing. I don't know. I mean, you or anybody at Active probably would know this more than I do, but I don't know how important it is necessarily anymore for sales.
Yeah.
I think it's less important than it was when we had Sean Watson, when at the time it was Hyperlight had Parks, and or Ronix with Danny Hart. You know, it's like 100% those boards were selling
because their names were on it. Yep.
Their names were on it. And I don't know what the difference is. I don't think the brands are doing worse marketing. I think maybe just the consumers aren't as
it's
infatuated.
Just kind of shifted. Yep.
So we've had kind of conversations internally. Should we have less pro models? Should it be more? It's not about an individual. It's more about the team. So we work on a couple boards. So there's a couple athletes that currently have pro models that for 2024, we're possibly talking about them combining and working on a board together.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Which it'll be interesting because their styles are kind of different, but they also kind of like riding the same type of board. So I think that it's just changing a little bit, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And I notice it too. Like when I'm selling, and I'll be talking about Megan's board and be like, yes, Megan Etzel's pro model board. And I've got some, gal in there, and she's like,
I don't know who that is.
And I'm like, yeah, I guess that's true. Like if you're not involved in the industry and you're not paying attention to it, but you go out on the weekends on your, uncle's boat, then like there's a difference there for sure. And I catch myself doing it very often. I'll be like, this is Harley's board, and this is how Harley rides. And so this, maybe it would be good for you. And people are like, okay, this is my first wakeboard. Like, I don't know who that, and I'm like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like, I tell people all the time though, I'm like, if you're gonna, if they leave with a Harley board, I'm like, your homework is to go home and Google that man, because you need to see what, like, that's why this board exists, is because of him, that sort of thing. So I'm always telling people to go look it up. Like, you need to know, because there's a lot behind having your name on a board. And I think it's important that people know that.
Yeah. And even though I think they're kind of less important than they used to be in terms of, it's not an automatic.
The name, I know what you mean, for sure.
It used to be when we had a Sean Watson board, like, and I've heard this from Ronix with Danny Hart. It was 100% that was going to be the number one seller by a long shot.
Yeah.
Now there's so many different styles of boards, and throw in wake surfing and foiling and all that. It's like it's not so obvious today that that it's not like Daniel Grant's park board is going to be our number one selling board, or that Nico's is, or whatever. It's just, if that happens to work, and I mean, obviously there's plenty of like super fans of these athletes, so it's not like that's gone away. It's just different.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Daniel's board is pretty rad, and I'm pretty pissed that I lost it because it's sold. But maybe.
I mean, I'm not pissed it's sold.
I'm not mad it's sold. I'm kind of mad it's sold, but I'm not totally mad it's sold. I'll make this work. But I do want to talk, speaking of him and wake skating. Like, I want to touch on that with you, because I know it's important to you, and I mean, it should be important to everybody, but I feel like Liquid Force has been very loyal to the wake skate game for a long time. And I don't know, this isn't meant to be mean, but I don't know that other brands really put as much effort into it as you guys do. So I kind of want to, I have a question here that if I don't read it, I'm probably going to do it wrong. But, you know, why do you guys still place a heavy focus on wake skating? What is it? You know, what's the reason for that?
Well, one, I would say if we were giving ourselves a grade, I don't think we're doing as good a job as we used to, because
Okay.
partially because, and this is why I think like why some of the other brands have either completely dropped it or don't pay attention.
Yeah.
The market's not what it used to be. And,
Yeah.
And because there's so many, you know, you can foil now, you can surf now.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of the brands that weren't really that into it from the get-go, but they saw an opportunity. Oh, people are buying these, so we should of course do a wake skate. As soon as the sales started dropping, they got out. We sell not as many as not obviously, but we don't sell as many as we used to.
Right.
So we're not marketing as much as we used to. But why do we still keep multiple wake skates in our line? Why do we still focus on it and try to promote it? Because it's awesome. I mean, that's
right.
It's
that's a very good answer.
I mean, that's the basic answer. And I think we, you know, from the early days, we were exposed to the potential and to the amazingness of wake skating through Thomas Harrell and people like that. And the cassette, our involvement with cassette at the beginning got us really in the mix with it. And that was when, you know, there were multiple brands all of a sudden, like after cassette, all these other brands started coming up, like, you know, Remote with Silas and those guys. And so we were part of that. And we were part of that because they opened our eyes to it, but also we loved it. I mean, I had 3 years probably where I never did anything but wake skate if I was on a boat or at the cable park.
Very nice.
And I love it. It's funny because I talked about earlier how I was kind of a crappy wakeboarder when I got into the sport, and then hanging out with the athletes, like you just naturally start getting better because but I got to a point where I was like plateauing. It was like, I could do a 360, I could do a tantrum. Like, you know, I never could really do that many tricks.
Right.
And I started getting a little bored with it. Whereas then wake skating was this whole new thing.
New challenge. Yeah.
And I was kind of at the beginning where like, if you could jump the wake, heel side, toe side, if you could do a 180, like you were getting in the magazine. And like,
totally.
I was kind of right there with those guys. So was Aaron Grace. So it was like, you have a lot of our crew we quickly got lost in the, you know, once they started doing really, really crazy stuff. But yeah, I just really like, I've always really been stoked on what Thomas started back then and where all the other wake skaters took it. And, you know, now it's at a point where it's like, when I watch Daniel do his laps at his park, and it's unbelievable.
Insanity. Absolute insanity.
Yeah. And I will say that I think that is part of what slowed the sport a little bit, is that the riders got so good
that it was like people couldn't, it was so far away from anybody else's reach to get to that point. It kind of set it. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I hate to, like, that sounds lame to be like,
right, they got too good.
Daniel Grant, you got too good. You know, all these Reed Hansen, you got too good. But it's like, but that's part of it is I think the average consumer looks at it and they're like, well, I could never do that.
I can't,
And you do fall a lot wake skating. And so it's like, there's just some of that where it's lost its luster a little bit. But I've said, as long as I'm in this position, we'll never not sell a wake skate. I just think I think it's cool. And, you know, obviously we have Daniel, so he pushes us on it too, but all our other riders do it too. I mean, they all like doing it every once in a while. And we go to the cable park, and it's like, you do a bunch of laps on your wakeboard, then you grab the skate and go out there and
go do that. Yeah, totally. I love going to like Goodwill or like thrift stores and finding like old wake gear. And I found a Barley wake skate, and it was like, it's like a 39. It was like it was $13. I was like, oh my God, like I have to get it. And
That's
so I bought
rad.
it. And of course, I come home with another board and my mother is just like, really? You need another one? And I'm like, no, this
Yes.
one's, it's different. It's not a wakeboard. It's not, no, it's different, and she's very supportive. So
Yeah.
I'll give her love. But I have started taking it out when we go on the boat and I suck. Like I am so bad, but I love it. I love being bad at it because I know there's no expectation.
Totally.
So when I just go out there and I have fun on it, it's like, oh, this is so rad. Like I always love taking it on the boat now. So
yeah, I do too. And it like, I suck. Like like
we're just back and forth. Like I am so bad.
well, but like I got to where I was actually kind of decent at it.
Yeah.
And then
Oh yeah.
now I do it less, so I'm not as good, but it's still like, it's so fun. It's just different. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's a blast. Like I think it's
Yeah.
really fun. And I just, every time I am out with friends, I'm always like encouraging, like, hey, just go, like try it once.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't have the shoes. You don't need shoes. Just ride barefoot
Yeah.
and cruise, you
Yeah.
know? And
Do it. Yeah, absolutely. I had a customer come in the other day and he was like, my son said you guys have water skateboards. And I was like, okay, I don't know what exactly you're talking about, but I think it's a wake skate. And so I started talking to him about it and he's like, oh, this is, I used to wakeboard and I can't do the falling anymore because it hurts my back and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, well, this is rad because you can fall whichever way you want because you're not attached
Totally.
to it. And he was like on cloud nine because he I don't have a surfing boat and I don't want to be strapped into something that's going to hurt me and all this stuff. So it's cool to have someone come in looking for a skate and being like, this is the coolest thing ever. I am so excited to do it.
I've found a lot of like older people that get into it.
Yes.
And not that they're old, but like, but like they're younger than me, but like Noel at Wake Island in Sacramento. Whenever I go up there, he and our rep Chris Patterson and I will all wake skate. And Noel is just like,
yeah,
I just love it. I can cruise. My friend Mike Olson, that's been with like Ski Rixon, he opened the Kansas City Cable Park and all those.
Yeah.
He like every year hits me up for a new wake skate and is just so fired up. And and I think it is because like wakeboarding, especially with the new boats, it's a lot more like you're going big when you're even just hitting the wake.
Oh yeah.
And so it hurts a little more than it used to. And so I think it's rad. I think wake skating is super cool.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned, all these riders got so good that it almost seemed kind of like unreachable for like the daily consumer. And so I kind of want to shift into talking about foiling.
Yeah.
And we'll get to my question in a second, but I have one I want to talk about first. You guys, I feel like LF has kind of taken the wake foil world by storm. You guys have definitely made your mark on it and really, I don't know, when we're selling foils, it's like, yes, there are other brands that make them, but we found that just your guys's, the run that you offer and what, you can kind of customize on them is great. So what kind of, developmental, what do you guys do to kind of figure out, board size and wings and all that sort of stuff? What kind of research goes into that for LF?
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of foiling, honestly. Like it's funny because I remember when Tony, like, I think even Jimmy didn't think it was that cool. Like Tony, so we used to have liquid force kiteboarding and, being close to Hood River, like foiling became a thing for kiteboarding and still is a big thing. And Tony working with I was never working on the kiteboarding side, and Tony working with them saw, maybe we can bring this into the wake side of things. And, when they started doing it, and I think Slingshot had theirs at that time too.
Yeah.
And Tony was really like pushing us and like, this is the next big thing.
Do this. Yeah.
And I just thought it was so lame. And I was like, all you're doing is just standing there. Like, you're not doing any tricks and it took a while. And then it was like, fast forward a couple years and everybody that had tried it was like, yeah, you're kind of just standing there, but it's so fun.
It's cool.
It's so right. You got to try. And then it was like all like our cool athletes started getting into it and they were having a
Yeah.
blast. And so, I mean, I was like one of the late adopters to it, but then it's like, oh my God, this is so fun. Why was I
Right.
anti it? And so, yeah, I mean, like anytime we go out on the boat, like there's always somebody, if not all of us, that are trying that.
Wants to do
Um,
it.
Jimmy Redmond spends a ton of time for it. Like he's really gotten into it, spent a ton of time. Pete
Yeah.
Marahoff, who is one of our designers, he actually lives in Hood River, but works, remotely. He's gotten really into it. And so it's just trial and error. I mean, a lot of
Right.
our original foils sucked compared to our new ones because we didn't really, everybody was
You got to
learning
figure
on
it
the fly.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so now, I mean, and we're looking towards, the kite side of things,
Right.
and we have our other brand, Freedom Foil Boards. It's a
Mm-hmm.
ocean foiling and like wing foiling deal. And
Mm-hmm.
looking at the technology that's in that industry and that side of the sport is so cool and so,
Yeah.
so much better than it was a few years ago. And so it's just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, bringing that stuff into our line. And
Totally.
it's funny because it's still, even when I watch like Gunther or Luca or any of our riders that are
Make it
really
look
into it,
so easy. So
totally.
easy.
But they also they're not doing that much. They're just
You know,
turning, but they're like like they love it. That's
it's
all they want
the
to do.
obsession. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I get back there and I can't do that, I'm like, oh my God, that is hard what they're doing. Like I
Mm-hmm.
want to get there. So
Right.
that's cool. And so, and our reps all are super into it now. And I mean, I think it's really, and dealers too. I mean, I remember you guys, it was like year one, you'd have maybe a couple of the slingshot ones and like one of
Mhm.
ours or something. You'd sell it and then you'd call us to order another one. Now
Right.
dealers all believe in it too, because you guys are all doing it too. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I think, and there's more education on
Yeah.
how to do it, what type. I mean, that's what we're working on a lot now, is more how to's, more.
Yeah.
But I mean, but boat instruct, like how to drive the boat for a foiler versus
Right.
wakeboarding or surfing or all that. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's rad that you guys do that, because I think it can be, like, to the dad that comes in because his kids were showing it to him on Google, and he's buying it for their lake trip this weekend. It's like, it's cool to be able to reference, you can do it behind anything, and here's how to get somebody up and that sort of thing. Because
Totally.
it's so different, and it's this whole new world. But that also makes me kind of wonder too, like, do you see, kind of like with wake skating, do you see people getting to a point where they're like, this is so freaking hard, I can't do it like those guys? Do you see any potential burnout for foiling?
I mean, I would say no, but I would also say yes. It's like
Yeah.
everything gets,
Anything, right? Yeah.
anything goes like that. I think the difference is that, like, I think the fact that it's not about tricks, like
It's just cruising. Yeah. Being able to
if you're a wake skater like me back in the day, and you could do a wake to wake, and then the next trick was, okay, do a 180, and then you see people doing crazy shove-its and kick flips and all that.
Yeah.
Like, to try to learn like a 360 shove it, you're gonna fall a million times
over and over and over again.
Yeah, unless you're just like somebody that just picks things up really quickly, but most of us don't.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas foiling, you don't. It's not like you're. I mean, yeah, people are doing crazy things on foils, but not that many, and not.
No, yeah, it's pretty. Yeah.
So it's really, I think, just about figuring out the balance and figuring. And I think once people figure out the balance, then it's like, okay, now I want to figure out going back to the second wake or the third wake, and now I want to figure out, let's put two boats together and things like that. And
Right.
so I don't know. I mean, I think it's not like people are gonna, travel the world foiling.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
And there's not gonna be foiling content. I mean, maybe, but I think it's just more of a fun. It's like you get burned out on wake surfing, and then you foil. Then you get a little tired of foiling, you go back to wake surfing. But it's not like either of those things have this, like, all of a sudden the pros are doing things that are just so far out there that
And to push people away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, we're gonna kind of move into the memories you've made. This was kind of like I mentioned before we got started, just I want to know some of the fondest memories that you've made being in the wake industry. And I I was told of a story. I'm gonna guide this first one, but I was told of a story of there was a houseboat and there was a boat behind it being towed, and it was sinking. And I feel like any boat sinking story is always worth being told a million times. So let's hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So I was, so this was, which is funny. You talk about memories, like some of the best memories I've had at this job revolve around Lake Powell and our, we used to do all our photo shoots there for the website and catalog. And we'd go to Lake Powell for 10 days with, 2 or 3 houseboats and all the athletes and Josh Letchworth, Joey Meddock, Justin Stevens, people like that, Mark Shanka, Sean Kilgus, that coming out to film and shoot. And it'd be a lot of work, but it'd be super fun because, you're just chilling on houseboats with your athletes and shooting, all day. So this was like, I forget how long ago this was, but one of the last times we actually did the shoot, we were sponsored by Malibu, and which we are now, again, Malibu Access. So the story didn't ruin our relationship with Malibu.
Yeah.
We still are with them. Yeah. But so it was the last day, and typically we shoot in the morning, we clean up the houseboats, we load up, we're maybe 2 or 3 hour boat ride back to the marina where we drop off our houseboats and we get out and head home. And it was a crazy, stormy, like windy day. So the main channel, have you ever been to Lake Powell?
I've never been, so I don't know.
So then, you end up hanging out in all these bays that are, usually really good water, but then the main channel where everybody has to go to get everywhere is just where those pictures, if you've seen, of like just rocks that are, 500 feet up, the water just starts bouncing all over like crazy. Yeah. And so we'd always we'd have like 4 wakeboard boats with us. So we'd tow 2 boats behind each, maybe a jet ski or 2. And this one particular trip back to the marina, I'm driving the houseboat and it's super rough, and we're just doing this, and occasionally we're checking on the boats behind us to make sure they're okay. And well, I guess we didn't check as often as we should have. I'm driving, and all of a sudden, like, everybody's just sleeping or whatever. All of a sudden, Shane Bonifay comes running down from upstairs, just like almost speechless because he doesn't know what to say. He's just like, oh, something's wrong back there. And like, I was like, dude, what's up? And he goes, the boat, something's wrong with the boat. And so I'm like, okay, I stop the houseboat. We're just rocking. I go back there and I see one boat and I don't see the other boat, but it kind of takes my brain a second to register. And there's debris. There's like life vests floating, like seat cushions are floating. Yeah. And all of a sudden, and there's footage of this somewhere because Justin Stevens, instead of like trying to help, thought it'd be funny to like film us through this. So there's
always someone like that in the group, which later you're like, thanks for doing that. But in the time you're like,
I need to hit him up and see the footage. But all of a sudden, the water starts bubbling. Next thing I know, you see the top of a tower, a wakeboard tower, and the boat pops up. But it doesn't just pop up and hey, it's floating.
Right. Yeah.
It kind of comes up, and it's still tied. It's still hooked up to our.
So you're just dragging it.
Yeah. So we're dragging it. We don't know how long, but it was 10 feet underwater or whatever. It's just tracking. So it comes up. Instantly we're panicked, like, oh my God, what do we do? We're out in the middle of the channel.
Right. Yeah.
So I go back to the houseboat. We find like the next little, it's not even a beach, but just like a little spot we could pull off.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I think at the time it was like myself, Shane, Colin Harrington, Justin, Tino Santori. And we're like, we pull the thing in. We're trying to figure out, okay, what should we do? And so we get out there trying to bail it, but the back of the boat was in the water. So bailing it wasn't doing anything because it was just still sitting there.
Bring it in.
So Colin comes up with the idea, I think it was Colin, comes up with the idea, fill a ballast bag with air and, fill 2 of them and we'd strap them underneath the boat and fill them. And that lifted the back of the boat enough.
No way.
To where it wasn't totally in the water.
Yeah.
And then we just spent hours bailing it. And the funny thing is in the meantime, I think Aaron Grace was driving our other houseboat and he was ahead of us.
Right.
And they look back and they're like, they're just like, what is Dawn doing? Why is he driving so slowly? And then somebody came up to them and was like, hey, are you guys with that liquid force boat? And told them what was up and told them. So like an hour into this, us trying to figure out the boat.
Everything. Yeah.
That crew shows back up and then we're all helping. And I mean, I had the worst sunburn I've ever had in my life. We're not
only to make things worse. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're not thinking like, oh, we need to put sunscreen on as we're bailing the boat for like 2 hours, and so we end up getting the thing to where it was floating. Obviously, we didn't start the boat, so we tow it in, get it out of the water, and are told like, hey, don't start this thing. The wiring could be totally messed up, and it was, and we took it back to the Malibu dealer, and it was like, $20,000 worth of damage. Like the engine was, all the wiring was shot, everything. And, I'm thinking like, we just had this great photo shoot and now we're going to have lost our boat sponsor.
We're in trouble.
Yeah. And the funny twist of the story is at the very end of all this, like the boat gets back, they redo it. Lonnie Farmer, who was the marketing director at the time, she ended up buying that boat for her personal boat because it was like a reject boat at that point. They gave her such a good deal and she had that boat for a long time. Like she might even still have that boat. So
yeah, the sunken boat. Oh my God. That's insane. Wow. Yeah. All I was told is like, yeah, he sunk a boat once, like talk about it. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Like that.
Well, and to this day I blame it on Melissa because I'm blanking on what the name is, but there's this huge rock like arch at Lake Powell. I'm blanking on what it's called, but anyway, you're not supposed to go under it. It's like, because it's like an Indian burial ground and all this, and like,
oh, bad luck.
It's bad luck. And so that day the day before we'd all walked up to go check it out, and I think Melissa and Colin went under it because they wanted to take pictures. And so then this happened. So that was like the joke. It was like, this is Melissa's fault.
You guys.
Exactly.
Does she think it's her fault or does she deny that? Do you know?
Oh, no, she thinks we're all crazy. She just thinks
she's like, it's absolutely not my fault.
I'm not picking on her.
I'm not taking the blame for that one. Well, I might have to ask her about that because I'd like to hear. At least she got her picture, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh, that's so wild.
Nobody was hurt, so it was good.
Right, as long as everyone was okay, and the boat got out of the water.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's good. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Well, I kind of want to touch on, like, I heard you and Tom talked about some bro stock stuff, so I'd like you to pick one memory, whether it's your favorite or the worst or the craziest, whatever it is. I'd like you to take it and I'd like you to break it down in the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why of what happened. Can you think of something that you can break down?
I mean, so maybe the worst is what I just told you. We sunk
that one. Okay.
$150,000 boat. But no, it's funny because there were so many. I mean, there's like a lot of crazy things that were like stupid things that were happening at the events, but one like night that I'll never forget that was so funny was, and dangerous, but at the time it was so funny.
That makes it more fun.
We this is one of the years where it had grown to be a pretty big event, and there were probably 20 houseboats lined up on the shore, and this was kind of there was this year or two where, for whatever reason, our team members just loved having fireworks for the RV and for whatever.
Yeah.
And so we had a bunch of these like fireworks with us, and this one night in front of all the houseboats, after everybody's partying, this full-on fireworks battle starts.
Oh my gosh.
And like the Who, I just remember like all the people from Alliance, so like Bill McCaffrey, Corey Murata, Garrett Ortiz was probably with us, Tony Smith, and then like all the local force group. But then they were all just like these random people, just that were there for the party. And we literally were like lined up, like one side versus the other side, just like, and everybody was there ready with their fireworks, just charging at each other and then letting go of the fireworks and just literally shooting fireworks at each other. And so stupid. I don't think anybody got hurt. We didn't burn anything.
Right.
But what I remember being really funny was Jimmy Redmond he had a tent. He wasn't sleeping on the houseboat. He had a lot of us had tents on the roof. He had a tent just out on the dirt out in front of our houseboat.
Yeah.
And was like,
I feel like I know where this is going.
He was like he was in like a different state of mind, basically passed out in his tent.
Right.
And he comes to, and he looks out, and he just sees like, and he thinks he's just seeing this crazy, like,
he's like so out of it.
Like,
yeah.
And all it is he's just caught in the crossfires of this fireworks show.
Oh my gosh.
So,
yeah, nobody thought, maybe we should not do it with him.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, he's in our way. We're trying to have a fight. Yeah.
Totally.
We're dueling. My gosh.
It was good. I mean, luckily most of the good stories from Brostock were pretty tame and just like
nice and mellow. Yeah.
Everybody just having a good time, and there were never any fights or anything like that. But
good.
Yeah. Yeah. And most people, like, the cool thing was like it was at night, so most people, it was like we weren't partying and then going on the boats and doing stupid stuff. Like we'd always pick an area where there'd be like a big big
place to pull off.
Yeah. So
very nice. Very nice. Well, good story time. Those are very fun, crazy, chaotic memories. I want to, before we wrap up, I have a special guest question from someone who, if you weren't wearing headphones and I talked louder, they might be able to hear me ask it. It is from your good friend, Aaron Grace. And he is asking you, I mean, if he's over there, he should just come in and ask you. But his question is, thinking back to Trip Across America, what is your memory of Team Extreme?
Oh, yes.
You got the double thumbs up.
That's actually a good question, because when he was on the Powell movement, he has inappropriate questions at the end. And when I was on Mike's show, he wasn't doing that yet, so nobody could ask me anything bad.
Right.
When Aaron did it, I asked the inappropriate questions, and I got Aaron pretty good. So I was thinking it was going to be like
you thought it was going to go a completely different direction. Yeah. You're like, whoa, okay, we're good.
No, so Team Extreme is so stupid. It was me, Aaron, and Chase Hefner, and it was Trip Across America. We were doing like the East Coast leg.
Okay.
And I don't even remember why, but I think like extreme sports was what everybody was, everything was extreme. And so Chase and Aaron and I just decided like every day we were going to do something extreme, and it wasn't never extreme, but
if it felt extreme, then it was.
Yeah, it was just us being stupid and making fun of it. But we'd like jump off some bridge into the lake, and we'd always X them up, like we'd be extreme.
Team Extreme.
Yeah. So we had this full like week where we were Team Extreme together, and
oh my god, I love it.
And like we would start, we'd be doing demos with kids, and we'd be like Chase would be like, yeah, I don't know if you guys know, but today's tryouts for Team Extreme, so we really gotta. So we'd like force kids that couldn't even jump the wake. We'd force them to do like a Rayleigh or something like that.
Yeah. Go there, try it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it was just fun. It was just good, stupid stuff. And it was just us, working all day and then driving all night to get to the next event, and thinking of like the next crazy thing we do the next day. And
yeah.
That was fun.
I love it.
There's probably more, like if you ever interview Aaron, there's probably more that I'm not, I actually just remember it being super fun, and we like jumped off a lot of bridges.
Yeah.
And
We'll have to get his side of the story, and then maybe you can ask him inappropriate questions and
yes,
like we'll
yeah,
set him up. Don't
yeah,
tell him that. Hopefully he doesn't watch the end of this, and then
yeah,
maybe we'll get him.
yeah, exactly,
We'll get him.
exactly.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all your amazing stories, all the insight on Liquid Force and everything you guys are doing. It's always awesome to hear, that inside scoop stuff. So I'm just really, really hyped to hear everything from you. And thank you very much, Don.
Yeah, no, thanks. This was super fun, and I think I don't know. It's sometimes I'm like, why does anybody like when you ask me, like, why would anybody want to talk to me about stuff? But then I think back, I'm like, I've been fortunate to be involved in a lot of fun things over the years, and like met
Yeah.
a ton of cool people, and I think that's been the best part about this industry for me is just I have friends all over the world,
Right.
and including you. It's like I have
Yeah. Yeah.
you and Dan and everybody up there, like that I truly consider as good friends, just because of
Totally.
the job we have and the sport we're
Right.
in. So,
Yeah. I
oh,
think
this
it's
is this
cool
is rad.
too. Like that full circle of like, I mean, I think the first time we met was on Gunther and Megan's porch,
Yeah,
just hanging
yeah,
out, waiting out the rainstorm that hit in Florida. So it's pretty cool to see how you can make connections and they last for a long time, which is cool.
yeah. No, totally. So now I guess it's time for
Now
me
it's
to, me to go. I get
lunchtime.
to go have
Yeah.
lunch. So
Go have some lunch. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Don.
no, thanks. I appreciate it, and looking forward to listening to all the other ones.
Absolutely. All right. Later.
Cool. See you, Summer.